wise, weird lesbian Barbie.
Yes.
They go back to Kate McKinnon.
Yes.
And they ask her about this.
Look,
and they bring.
I'm sorry, Ben, but I'm going to go back to Kate McKinnon time and time and time, and I'm not even that gay.
Does that make me a woman? Ooh. Next, you will make a reference, I would assume, to Victor Hugo. Wow.
Speaking of masculinity, we've got a Ben Shapiro review of the Barbie movie.
And Oppenheimer. I'm about to review both of them. I'm going to tell you which one of these is the best blockbuster of 2023 and which one is maybe the worst.
I bet he loved our movie, right, Ken?
For those of you who can't wait that long, I'm going to give my review of the Barbie movie in the most Oppenheimer fashion.
What the Ryan?
Wait, is it because Ryan Gosling was in that movie and also played Ken? Is that why? Okay. Yeah, he's Ken. Okay, so that's the reference. I thought so. I just wasn't sure.
So the things I do for my audience, my producers dragged me to go see Barbie the movie. And I have thoughts. Let me begin with my generalized assessment of the movie. This movie is not just a piece of shit. This movie is a flaming piece of dog shit piled atop an entire dumpster on fire, piled atop
Got the whole crew laughing with this
a
one.
landfill filled with dogs.
He's trying to be a Zoomer video essayist. He probably has he's probably getting advice, right? He's got like with Daily Wire money, you got to have a consultant, right?
It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. On every possible level, it is a horrific movie. The only thing that can be said for this film is production design. The production design is really nice. The costumes are really nice. Also, it's really hard to screw that up. It's really hard to screw that up because you literally have this to model after. All you have to do is this, but big. Okay? It's really not tough. But put aside all of the beautiful costumes, which is there for the ladies, which is there for the intended audience for this film, is moms and their 8-year-old daughters. That's the intended audience for the film. I know because the previews for the film were all kids' movies. I'm talking like G or PG rated.
Why is he so mad at Barbie?
By two people who are so smug and self-satisfied, and Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, that they have no audience. I mean, like,
they're so
who
smug.
thought it's
Yo, Ben Shapiro! Who's calling people smug and self-satisfied? Seriously. Ben Shapiro. Calling other people smug and self-satisfied. That is your brand, dude. That is your brand.
great idea. Let's bring on the people who wrote Lady Bird and Marriage Story to make a movie about a plastic doll that is generally played with by 5 to 9-year-old young girls. So the basic idea of the film, they really have no basic idea of the film. They don't know whether they hate Barbie, they kind of despise Barbie as a fascist emblem, as we'll get to.
Like, could Barbie be used as that kind of symbol? Sure, right? I feel like Barbie's like malleable. Like literally, there's more than one Barbie. There's many Barbies, and there's other dolls associated with Barbie, right? Barbie's not like one thing. Is there like a trans person in a scene? Yeah. Wait, there is, right? There is. Some girls say she's a fascist, but it's like a joke. Yeah, I mean, like only if you take Barbie as being like the ideal that you should live up to, and any degree to which you fall short of Barbie, you are a failure. Isn't this against the dress code of every young Republican club? I don't know.
Cycle. It does not end.
You might have a point there, BPCL.
Every scene is at least 2 minutes too long. Every single scene, every beat is 2 minutes too long.
I feel like every Ben Shapiro segment is more than 2 minutes too long. I feel like so much of this criticism that Ben Shapiro is throwing out there at the Barbie movie could apply to Ben Shapiro himself.
It is a bad film. Put aside the politics. Like, really. I was sitting there.
I'm watching a Ben Shapiro video. Don't tell me it's a bad film. You're a bad film. He's a bad film, and he inspires some great short films, such as this one that you might be watching on YouTube. If so, give it a like. Make sure to hit it with a like button.
Inserted. Then it will get a
and leave a subscription while you're here, bestie.
91% on Rotten Tomatoes, even if the thing is just Drek. And I mean, boy, is this Drek.
You want to talk about movies that are Drek that are going to get like 91 or 100% on Rotten Tomatoes? Let's talk about what is that movie called? The Sound of Freedom? People basically, right-wingers think that if you don't go to Rotten Tomatoes and give that like a top score, that you yourself are a child predator, right? That's literally the way that they're. Anybody who doesn't love that movie is a child predator.
This is a Death Star sized piece of dreck. It is like, that's no moon. That's a Drek station.
Wait, is he trying to say that he doesn't care about Drek station? Is that what Drek means to you, Ben?
Okay, so it starts with Helen Mirren explaining
Shapiro, worst mom.
back in the day, girls would only play with dolls that looked like babies. And then she says that this could be fun, at least for a while anyway. Ask your mother, because your mother actually hates you and doesn't like being a mom, you see. So if you ask your mom, she wants to play at not being a mom sometimes. Okay, so the basic premise is Barbie is supposed to be the independent woman who liberates all womanhood, but she fails. And she fails for two reasons. One, she's actually a tool of the patriarchal capitalist system. And two, the real world has rejected the message of Barbie, which is that women should run everything. Okay, so this is all not implicit. This is explicitly said. At the beginning, the monologue, you have Helen Mirren saying, because Barbie can be anything, women can be anything. At least that's what the Barbies think. See, in the real world, women can't be anything. And that's one of the messages of the film. In the real world, men.
Is that Jamie Presley? I really don't know. I don't know anything about
run
this movie.
Pretty much everything.
Other than Ben Shapiro's, then Ben Shapiro hates it.
Which is weird. Who greenlit this piece of shit? I mean, Greta Gerwig is a lady. She's making a good living off of this. Margot Robbie is playing the lead. In fact, the entire cast, aside from basically Ryan Gosling, is women. So
yeah, Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling are the leads.
It seems like women are doing okay, but
because women are the lead in a movie about a woman, right?
Again, put aside the meta logic of it. I'm going to go through like a lot of beats here. So it starts off with the idea that mommy dolls are bad and insufficient, but then they criticize Mattel for
two women made money from this movie, so obviously the whole gender, yeah, exactly.
Continuing a mommy doll named Midge. Right? Midge is the pregnant doll and it was discontinued. They're like, that's bad. But hold on, you just said that dolls about motherhood are bad, but then this one, don't look for any sort of logical coherence. There is a Citizens United reference. They say all of the members of the Barbie...
Yo! We all know who Citizens United is, right? We're talking about the Supreme Court decision that held up corporations as having the same rights as people, and the main right being the right to free speech. And what does free speech mean for a corporation? It means they should be able to spend as much money as they want buying the government.
Supreme Court are women.
He better keep Ryan Gosling's name out of his mouth if that man is a Canadian, treasure, and he can do no wrong.
And then they are speaking out about Citizens United, that corporations are not people. It's literally a Citizens United reference. Who is the audience for this? Who is the 7-year-old girl who's like, yes, I too have a very informed perspective on the Citizens United decision. And then they say that logic and feeling at the same time.
Okay, does he not know how this works, right? These are the kind of movies that work on two different levels. There's one level that's for little kids, and there's another level that's for the parents because Ben, and this might break your brain, but you said it earlier, right? This movie is designed for parents to see with their children, right? The parents have the nostalgia for the Barbie. Barbie's probably not as popular as she was at her very height. Barbie's probably not the most popular toy like out there, right? But a lot of moms and maybe some dads remember Barbie being a pretty cool toy, and they want to just like the same way that when there's like any kind of like movie, like, right, the She-Ra cartoon, like the same reason they do any of these reboots, right? This is not that it's not that deep, Ben.
It doesn't diminish us. It proves that we are more than, right? It's all propagandistic. And then it sets up the dichotomy. The dichotomy is that
all 7-year-old girls know that Citizens United was BS.
Men and women are in complete and utter contradistinction in terms of their roles. So women...
Yo, listen, it doesn't have to be that way, Ben. But when you're saying return to tradition, and tradition is women as property, then yeah, that is an inherent contradiction in interest, right? If men's interests, if men, to the extent that men and conservative men do think that it's in their interest to be able to treat women like objects, and that's obviously not in women's interest, then yeah, you have an inherent contradiction. I don't know what else to tell you.
Only exist.
Tons of dudes are seeing this, yeah. And they're usually not, it doesn't make them mad like it does Ben. Like they laugh, they enjoy it.
They are completely free of men. And men only exist if they are completely free of women. And the problem for Ken, the problem that's set up for Ken, is that Ken is dependent on Barbie, right? Because Ken is kind of secondary. And we also set up at the very beginning that Barbie doesn't like Ken. She finds Ken annoying.
Wait, contradistinction?
She finds Ken ridiculous, which, again, is sort of against the concept of Ken and Barbie. But the basic idea is
you can play with concepts, Ben.
That Barbie is an independent woman and Ken is completely superfluous. We then go to the beach, and there's a scene on the beach where the Kens are supposed to be the lifeguards and the ladies are playing on the beach. And we get a series of gay masturbation jokes.
I don't trust him to ascertain, like, what is a gay masturbation joke versus what is just a masturbation joke.
Is an audience for children. They're talking about beaching each other off. Right?
Beaching?
There's a line where Ken
I get it.
Ken says to another one of the Kens, I'm going to beat you off. Get it? You get it? Because it's like beat you off, but beach you off. And then they repeat that no less than 4 or 5 times in the span of 45 seconds.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken.
I'll beach off with you any day, Ken.
Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first.
I will beach both of you off at the same time.
See, this is the essence of that kind of joke, right? Look, if there's any criticism to make of this joke, it's that maybe it slightly reinforces the pejorative against, homosexuality.
Beach both of us off?
Nobody's gonna beach anyone off.
These men are supposed to be performing heterosexuality here, and yet they're talking about beaching each other off. Take the, homophobia out of it. I think it's a pretty funny joke.
That.
And it's perfect because no little kid's going to get that, right? No little kid's going to get that. They're just going to be like, oh, they're doing a beach off because they're on the beach. They're competing with each other. And it's like a dance off, but with beach stuff, right? It's a perfect joke that works on 2 levels.
No less than 4 or 5 times in the span of 45 seconds.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken.
I'll beach off with you any day, Ken.
Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first.
I will beach both of you off at the same time.
Beach both of us off?
Nobody's gonna beach anyone off.
Bazinga.
Yo, he's trying the Zoomer humor. Oh my God. No. They're doing the clipping. He's trying to do it. Like, I don't know.
Because it's just such a great
Here we go. We gotta have the, yeah.
gay masturbation joke. You got to go for it. I mean, and then we get the break, right? Then we get the actual plot point. Plot point number 1. Barbie has irrepressible thoughts of death. So again, at this point, you might be thinking to yourself, wait a second, isn't this a kid's movie? Isn't this supposed to be made for 7-year-old girls? Nope. It's about existential angst over mortality. That's what this film is about. Now, again,
The joke is that she's a doll and she's not alive, but we ascribe and project life and emotions onto her. So wouldn't it be funny if a doll was had thoughts of mortality? Ben, really, it's not this deep.
Placed through all of this is just more and more and more politics, right? One of the Barbies is a trans Barbie, and this is treated totally normally, as though this is a female Barbie with a voice, again, deeper than my own.
Ben, I mean, that's not exactly the lowest/highest bar that you could, I don't know.
Irrepressible thoughts of death. And this comes along with physical symptoms. Like, for example, her feet flatten out. Again, this is one of the few cute jokes in the movie, is that Barbie walks around and just like a normal Barbie doll, when you take off the shoes, the feet are shaped like the shoe, like the high heel. But now,
yeah, that's true.
She is turning into like a real world person. And so her feet collapse, right? And so she goes to see Weird Barbie.
Wait, what? Why is that a criticism? How is that a criticism?
So Weird Barbie is a Barbie that has been played with too hard and has all the knowledge, only about Barbie Land, but also,
Listen. Honestly, Weird Barbies are the best. Weird Barbies are the best. My sister had a Weird Barbie.
About the real world. And apparently there's a connection between the people playing with the Barbies.
It never clicked with you. So you saw the movie, right, Bread Bro? Who in here has seen the movie? One if you've seen the movie.
The Barbies. So if the people playing with Barbies are sad, then the Barbies also get sad. Weird that this has only happened to Barbie, because it turns out that lots of people are sad and have played with Barbies for a very long time. But that's the plot point. Fine. And again, the concept of like a Barbie that was played with too hard is very funny, because everybody has seen that before. And they somehow blow this. Somehow they make this into a not funny thing. So Weird Barbie is ugly and she has bad makeup and all the rest of it. And she informs Barbie she has to go to the real world and she has to find the person who is
I mean, I wouldn't say bad makeup. I'd say interesting.
playing with her, and she has to make that person feel better because that will heal the problem that she's having in Barbie Land. Okay, so we have our plot point, right? We have the thing that's going to launch us off into the rest of the movie. And then it's just a complete mess from here on in. At least to this point, it's kind of dumb but coherent. From here on in, it makes no sense at all. Again, Kate McKinnon sets up the dichotomy that pretty much the makers of the film hate Barbie by suggesting that you can live in Fantasyland with Barbie and you can take the Barbie shoe, or you can take Birkenstocks, right? You can become like
the comfortable shoe. Oh my God, is that like it's supposed to be a This is like a very antiquated lesbian joke, I think.
Portland lesbian, and you can learn about reality. That's going to be the choice that you have to make.
Or you could just be comfortable with can we just move the Birkenstock thing past being like a sign of lesbianism? Like, really, come on. Also, who wears does anybody wear Birkenstocks? Like this is such a
but not before she makes a joke.
If anything, that's an antiquated joke
about Ken and wanting to see the nude blob he is packing under those pants.
That's somebody said that?
Perfect for 8-year-old girls, ladies, mothers.
What is it? What's going to happen? What's the concern, Ben? What are you worried about? They're going to think that they're going to kick some dude there to see if there's a nude I don't know. What is he?
Ken and Barbie head off to the real world to try to find the person who is playing with Barbie. And immediately upon arriving in the real world, Barbie is hit with an overwhelming tsunami of sexism, like right away.
I gotta know, when they go to the real world, do they meet Lightning from Final Fantasy 13? Because I would like to think that in the real world, that like this, in the same way that Lightning ends up in the real world, in the same way that, wait, no, I don't think Sora actually ends up in the real world. I think that's gonna like not end up being the real world. But I know that Lightning canonically ended up in the real world. I wear purple Birkenstock. Okay, so people do wear, but it's not like, I don't know, like it's like a 90s joke or something to say that like women who wear Birkenstocks, it means that they're gay, right? That all other women would be wearing high heels, but the lesbians get comfortable shoes because they don't have to impress. I don't know. It's an antiquated joke. They just meet MTV producers.
Boom. She walks in, and a bunch of men just leer at her and say, "Give us a smile, blondie," which is something that no one under the age of 70 has said to a woman in the recent past. Give us a smile.
No, I mean, like if you're just talking about the smile thing, yeah, I get told, like lots of women get told, "You look pretty when you smile. Why don't you do it more often?"
Seriously? We get Barbie explaining that all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Look, yeah, the Birkenstocks are just Birkenstocks, right? You don't need to read any more into them.
Men who are leering at her and gazing at her, they have an undertone of violence. Everything's she's threatened. She's physically threatened because this is the real world. The real world is not like Barbie Land. In the real world, all women
they get arrested?
Are victims. They are deep and abiding victims of the system, as we'll learn by the use of the word patriarchy no less than 10 times in this film. She gets arrested like twice for various crimes. The police officers are hitting on Barbie. They're making observations about her appearance. Ken, meanwhile, is getting super happy because Ken, who's been sort of an underling in Barbie Land, now he's realizing he's part of the patriarchy, and the patriarchy is awesome. Ken is loving the patriarchy.
It's now, Red Pill Ken.
You might imagine at this point that the way the film is going to go is that Ken and Barbie are going to have to some sort of agreement about seeing each other as equal human beings. You might imagine that's where it's going. Wrong. That's not where the film is going to go. You might have thought that what you were going to get was Ken gets treated with respect as a person, and Barbie gets treated with respect as a person.
He wanted. Oh my god. So Ben would have, if he had written this, it would have been to show that men are victimized not by the patriarchy, not by like expectations of not by like masculine essentialism, right? Men are victimized by feminism, and that Barbie needs to get over the chip that she's got on her shoulder because actually Ken is really a victim, whereas she just thinks she's a victim. That's how Ben Shapiro would have written this.
And that's a better, nope, wrong. In the end,
he has no idea.
Not to skip ahead, Barbie Land just gets restored and the men are still subservient. That's the best version of the world. Okay, so Ken is walking around and he's really enjoying the patriarchy and all of this. And he explains that men rule this world. And he goes to Mattel and all the members of the board are men. By the way, I'd like to see a corporate breakdown of the Mattel board. I'll bet I can find it. Like the CEO of Mattel for 30 years was a woman. So there's that. They pretend that like Mattel is all run by men. So now I want to know who's on the board. Okay, chairman and CEO is a dude. The board includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It includes 5 women. So it's 6 men and 5 women.
All working under one man.
Clearly patriarchal domination. Clearly patriarchal.
Oh my God. So if we can find an anecdote that you know what I mean? We can forget about statistics if we can find an anecdote that contradicts those statistics.
Patriarchal domination. Just wanted to look that up just for the sake of, accuracy. Whenever I do these reviews, like, oh, you're taking the movie too seriously. The movie takes itself too seriously, guys.
You take the movie too seriously.
It pretends to be a comedy, but it's taking itself super seriously. Fine. So it's all men at the top of Mattel, and they realize that Barbie and Ken have escaped Barbie land. And this presents some sort of threat. What kind of threat? Because the writers are shitty. They don't bother explaining. They're just like, a threat. And Will Ferrell acts all weird and goofy, like Will Ferrell, and he's funny.
Wait, no, because there's Barbie land, and then there's the Mattel, and obviously, like, Barbie is a thing within Mattel, so if Barbie goes to the real world, instead of being like Barbie land, I mean, do you really need it spelled out for you?
Because it's Will Ferrell acting weird and goofy, but he's not funny because it's just Will Ferrell with no actual plot or dialogue to speak of, just being weird.
He's like way angry about this. Also, ouch. Have you ever gotten hit with a basketball? One in chat if you've ever been hit with a basketball. That actually hurts. Well, like sometimes a kickball hurts, right? Sometimes a kickball actually really hurts, but a basketball, ow. Like, God, the few times I've been hit by a basketball, like...
Fill that in later. There's so many places in the script where it's basically like the writers they left a gap and they're like...
Yeah, exactly, Dragon Princess. It's a fucking Barbie, dude.
Leave a couple asterisks, we'll fill it in later, and then later they got there and they're like, nah.
Will Ferrell being Will Ferrell. I mean, Will Ferrell's hit or miss. He's not always funny.
We'll just skip right over it. Fine. So they figured they got to track down Barbie and Ken. And meanwhile, Barbie is trying to track down the...
So, what? I mean, that
unattainable feminine ideals. How Barbie is ruining the planet with rampant consumerism. You get like this full lecture right in the middle of the film. It's truly awful.
The mom doesn't see that way, but the daughter does.
It's truly awful. She's called a fascist. By the way, it only sets up the only good line of the film. Truly, in my opinion, there's one good line in the film. And that is where Barbie is trying to contemplate whether she's a fascist or not. And she says, I don't control the railways or the flow of commerce. Barbie is supposed to be an idiot bubblehead piece of plastic from Barbie land. How does she know what a fascist is? How does she know about the flow of commerce? Like, again, just in terms of character consistency, like characters who actually are the characters.
I don't think that's like
no sense whatsoever. So, meanwhile,
look, if she really was what you're saying, that would be a boring movie, right? If that's how you portray Barbie, head empty, full of plastic, right? It wouldn't be a fun movie.
Well, Ken is wandering around, enjoying the patriarchy more and more and more. And he keeps asking men about the patriarchy. And at one point, he asks a dude about the patriarchy. And the guy says, well, that's not really the way that it works here anymore. He says, really? He says, no, it still works that way. We just hide it really well.
You're really mad about this, aren't you?
Again, you can't even...
It's just literally the truth, and he gets all mad.
You can't even present the mild other side of the film. And this sort of nonsense continues. The first third of the film is about how Mattel is kind of bad for...
Barbie has done so many different jobs.
Creating this fancy land. Second third of the film is about the real world evils of the patriarchy. Oh, the patriarchy. Oh, the patriarchy. Culminating in an idiotic line where one of the low-level members of Mattel is with the board, and Barbie is looking for a woman at the board. And the low-level man says, I'm a man with no power. Does that make me a woman? Ooh. Next, he will make a reference, I would assume, to Victor Hugo. Wow. Proust.
Another author that I haven't read. Oh. Ooh.
Idiots who think they're smart. It's total.
Those damn idiots in their Proust.
Then Barbie escapes the Mattel building. They were going to package her up and they were going to send her back to Barbie land. And she instead runs and she escapes the Mattel building. And she hooks up with America Ferrera. So America Ferrera is the actual one who's playing with Barbie as a youth. And it's her daughter who Barbie had originally approached. Twist! Okay, and she decides that in order to escape the Mattel executives, she's going to have to bring both of them back to Barbie land. Why does she bring both of them back to Barbie land? No one knows. There's no actual, there's no explanation as to why she's supposed to bring both of them back to Barbie land. Supposedly...
Anonymous gifter!
It's because she needs to escape back to Barbie Land, but she can do that without the two of them.
110 subs.
But she decides she's going to bring them back. So she brings them back to Barbie Land. Meanwhile, the Mattel executives are chasing her. Now, question, why are they chasing her? They achieved their goal. Barbie's back in Barbie Land. Why are they still chasing her? No one knows. It doesn't make any sense. They literally say there will be consequences you can't even imagine. And then,
well, I mean, there's not consequences if she just gets to go back into Barbie world and they don't chase her, right? I don't know.
They're like, what consequences? And they're like, fill in the blank. And some dude says something about a podcast with two trees. You're like, that's the laziest shitty writing. God.
Wait. That's a reference to what is it called?
Okay. Anyway, so Ken, in the meantime, he has already headed while she was, futzing around over at Mattel. Ken has already headed back to to Barbie Land, where he has immediately established the patriarchy. So just to
that's great. That's actually pretty funny.
Just to point out here, the point of the film is that the matriarchy is amazing. Women are amazing at everything. Ken walks in, and within 2 seconds, he has taken over all of Barbie Land.
Here's what's amazing. Ben thinks that the matriarchy, in other words, misandry, is like a real concern. Like we're partway there already. It's a real danger. We might get there. It would be bad. Matriarchy, it would be horrible. It would be horrible, and we need to protect against it. And it's unnatural. It's a reversal of the order that God intended. Right? This is like he's really worried about this in the same way that Vosh is worried about like anti-white racism taking hold and the literal power structure, the racialized power structure around whiteness being reversed, right? These are both ridiculous fears to have. And yet, I mean, it's at the very core of white supremacy. And that kind of fear is at the very core of white supremacy. That kind of fear is at the very core of masculine fragility, right?
And he has turned it into the Kendom within 2 seconds. Which apparently the women are so unbelievably competent.
So you don't find that funny?
And brilliant and great at everything over in Barbie Land that an idiot man walks in and takes over the whole place inside of 2 seconds. Fine. So he takes over the entire place. We later learn that's because the women...
So much for your matriarchy.
They didn't know what was coming. We later learned they didn't have immunity. And the way that they get immunity is by learning to hate the men. That's the way. That they have to learn to hate the men. Okay, so Ken decides he's going to go back and he's going to establish his patriarchal system.
Yo, I want to see this now. I really want to see this now, right? Does Ken try to go in and is he red pilling people? Is he trying to, is he pulling some kind of red pill PUA grift or something?
We learned this when Barbie heads back with America Ferrera and Random Daughter. And Ken immediately starts acting like the jerks in the patriarchy, right? He calls her baby. Oh no. He calls her baby. The greatest of all insults. He calls her baby. And then America Ferrera is trying to explain to Barbie what exactly is going on. And she's like, it's just like the indigenous people and smallpox. They had no immunity. Howard Zinn wrote the script. So the ladies in Barbie Land had no immunity to the magic of the patriarchy, the magic. The women were seduced into... So just to point out here, the actual argument the movie is making is that if women enjoy men, it's because they have been brainwashed by the patriarchy. They make this message explicit in just a few minutes in the film. And when I say a few minutes, I mean several years, because this film took years off my life. It is long, it is boring, and it's terrible.
I mean,
okay, so
look, we can only hope, Ben. We can only hope that the world will be spared a few years of Ben Shapiro thanks to this movie. Right? We can only hope.
The Kens are about to perform. None of this makes any damn sense.
One in chat again if you've seen this. I want to know who in chat has seen this movie.
Okay, the Kens are about to have a vote to change the Constitution. Why? Ken literally just sees power. He's a fascist. What the f*** is he going to vote for? Why are they voting?
Only
he sees power.
Only one person has seen this. I thought it was the only one who hasn't seen this.
Also, what is the breakdown demographically of the Kens and the Barbies? Are there as many Kens as Barbies? Because why would they hold a vote? The Kens appear to be in a minority in Barbie Land. There are a lot more Barbies than Kens. So if that's the case, why even do the democratic vote thing? Why not just seize the power? Because then you wouldn't have the rest of the dumb plot of this stupid film. So they decide they're going to hold the vote. And not only are they going to hold the vote, they're going to be very fair about it. They're going to hold it in 48 hours. They're going to hold it in a couple of days to make sure that the Barbies have time to actually form a counter plan. Why would they do that? No reason. Asterisk. We'll fill it in later. Okay, so they decide they're going to hold this dumbass vote. And the Barbies learn about this, and Barbie is very depressed because Barbie realizes that all the other Barbies have been taken in by the patriarchy, and this is extremely bad. Now, here's one place where you have a serious continuity error in the film. So, Margot Robbie,
You saw it in bad quality, though?
who plays Barbie at the beginning, half the time she plays Barbie is kind of stiff like a doll, and half the time she plays Barbie is just kind of normal. And so now she plays it super stiff like a doll. She sits down, in kind of 90-degree position like a Barbie would, and she keels over in the 90-degree position. And it would be funny, except she hasn't been doing it the whole film. Again, the level of inconsistency and bad filmmaking here is just off the chart. They needed somebody to actually sit down with them and be an adult in the room, and no one was there. So at this point, America Ferrera and daughter decide they've given up on Barbie because Barbie won't fight for herself. And so they take off. And Michael Cera, for no reason, is in this film. And he's in the back of the car, and we don't know why.
Yeah, I'm confused about that.
And he serves no purpose other than to have a random fight scene. And also so that they can make a Trump building the wall reference. Right? They're apparently the Kens are going to build a wall to keep people from getting in or getting out. Now, here's the weird part. No one has ever entered or exited Barbie Land before. Why are you building a wall? What is the...
What are you talking about? Didn't Barbie just left and went to the real world and then came back, right? Brought people with what? Okay.
Necessity for a wall. No one explains. It's just a dumb Trump reference so that everybody who is friends with Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig can laugh and nod like the morons they are.
No, Ben. What you're missing, okay, is that it's like everybody who's not a chud, right? Everybody who doesn't have a weird, creepy, parasocial relationship where that they think that Trump is their dad or their grandpa or their uncle or something, right? That's who's laughing, okay? That's who doesn't like Trump. It's not like the rare person. At this point, look, Trump has like just narrowcasted himself into the hearts of chuds. Like, don't get me wrong, they love him. But there's not that many of them. There is enough to win the Republican nomination. There is not enough to win a national election. If Trump, by some horrible twist of fate, is reelected, it's going to be from people voting against Biden and not from people. In fact, his win, was mostly his original win in 2016 was mostly people voting against Hillary Clinton, both because of the kind of weird sexist hate campaign that they've run against her since the 90s, and because she is a phenomenally uncharismatic politician, right? So
the daughter and the mom,
like 2016 is the worst year to possibly run an establishment candidate like Hillary.
They decide, no, we have to go back and we have to save Barbie Land. They're going to save Barbie Land.
Yeah,
and who do they go to? They go to wise, weird lesbian Barbie.
Yes.
They go back to Kate McKinnon.
Yes.
And they ask her about this.
Look,
and they bring.
I'm sorry, Ben, but I'm going to go back to Kate McKinnon time and time and time, and I'm not even that gay. Okay, Kate McKinnon's got something going on that I can't even explain. Kate McKinnon has a weird power over me, is what I'm saying, chat. Strange power. Ben, it's a movie. It's not supposed to be completely legit and logically. Yeah, it's a Barbie movie, okay? It's a movie about a toy. It needs to have this kind of eccentric sense of humor about itself. Kind of love Kate McKinnon now. Yeah, me too. Is Robert DeSantis. Wait, is Ben's dad now not Donald Trump? Oh, wait, is that right? I don't know where he's at. We got any Shapiro trackers out there? There was a while that he was off the Donald Trump sauce. There was a short while that he was off the Donald Trump sauce. The sad thing is, and the ironic thing is, that Ron DeSantis has somehow managed to narrowcast himself even more than Donald Trump. Like, we saw the ad yesterday of Ron DeSantis that his social media team made for him that ends in a literal Nazi symbol. Right there, 2 lines of marching troops, of Florida State Guard, marching troops and marching into a Sonnenrad with like DeSantis's head in it, right? DeSantis basically went from being possibly the surrogate for Republicans who are anti-woke, but look at Donald Trump and see too much baggage. They don't want to deal with that. They feel they don't want to run that. They know that Trump can't win again, and they don't want to deal with that, right? And just DeSantis became their hope. Okay, he's lost all of them, and the only people that are left in the Ron DeSantis campaign, specifically because of his ads, I'd say, are people who like Donald Trump but are a little bit skeeved by the fact that his daughter married a Jewish guy, right? So in other words, if you're too anti-Semitic for Donald Trump, you vote for Ron DeSantis. So I don't know. I mean, I would guess that Ben is back in Camp Trump, but I must admit, I haven't been paying close attention. Trump conservatives are calling Shapiro establishment now. Yeah.
Barbie with
there's a Tabernacle video, right?
them, and they're going to try to figure out a strategy. How do they stop the Kens from winning the vote? Now, you might say to yourself, wait, aren't the women majority? Do they not have agency, the women? They have no agency, apparently. So apparently the women have no agency, and they are a majority, and yet they have to be deprogrammed. They're going to be deprogrammed by Weird Barbie and her, crazy cadre of feminist heroes.
I love you guys.
And this is when we start getting into the real. You think it's propagandistic so far? Oh man, wait. Here is where we get into like the real meat of it. Okay, so we end up with Barbie complaining. She's complaining to...
I said that I would give you Moms for Liberty, but honestly, that Tabernacle video is starting to sound good to me. Anybody else want to watch the Tabernacle video?
Weird Barbie. And she says, oh my God, they've brainwashed all the other Barbies. They've brainwashed all the other Barbies. She says, quote, either you're brainwashed or you're weird and ugly. There is no in between. And Weird Barbie says, tell me about it. And this is the perspective of the film. Either you're a third wave feminist kook.
Either you're bound by, so here we see it. Here we see that Barbie can be used as a fascist symbol, or Barbie can be liberating, right? And it's all up to you what kind of Barbie girl you are, right? Are you a Barbie girl that is beholden to this Eurocentric, like male gazy vision of beauty, or are you a Barbie that can see beauty in Weird Barbie? That is true. That is true. Which side are you on?
Who hates men, truly hates men, or you are brainwashed.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
There's no in between. There's no actual relationship between men and women. There can't be any sort of fulfilling relationship between men and women. There are no decent males in the entire film. All the men are garbage. The only man who even appears mildly is America Ferrera's husband, who's just kind of a joke. He's there for literally 10 seconds in the film, making jokes about how he can't speak Spanish. That's his whole role in the film. Every other man is a piece of shit in the film. Everyone. And so this is the perspective of the film when you come right down to it. Either you are brainwashed or you are weird and ugly. And Barbie's like,
either you are brainwashed or you are Kate McKinnon pilled. I want to be Kate McKinnon pilled.
That's what Barbie says. I mean, the only decent male is Alan, who apparently wants to wear pink and probably is supposed to be gay. I mean, I think it's supposed to be pretty clear from the film. Although, really, the take of the film is that all the Kens are gay. That's really the take of the film, is that it's all homoerotic kind of stuff.
Let's beach off.
Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me.
Ben really likes this beach you off joke.
Off first.
I will beach both of you off at the same time.
They're going to have a beach off.
In any case, the filmmakers are so insecure with even their own script that they then have...
Yo, tell me about Insecure, Ben Shapiro. Tell me about Insecurity.
The narrator jet in.
This guy that gets fuming mad about the Barbie movie. Tell me about Insecurity, Ben. Tell me about it.
To say, Margot Robbie might not be the best person to make...
His video on why Ben Shapiro has bad taste in movies is good too. Wow. It's not about this one, is it?
At this point, right? Because Barbie's saying, I don't feel beautiful anymore. And they're like, Margot Robbie. They literally jet in to say, Margot Robbie might not be the best person to make this point. Then maybe you shouldn't have written the point.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't believe in this, like, monocultural, like, Eurocentric, male gaze vision of beauty anymore, maybe you don't feel beautiful anymore, right? Maybe you need that Kate McKinnon pill. Foreign's video explains all of this. Wait, the video on homosexuality, that one?
Maybe you shouldn't write it like that. Maybe you should not be a writer. Maybe you could do that. Okay, no. Okay, this is when we get the full bore thesis of the film. And guess what, guys? The thesis of the film, made by women, made for women, made starring women, funded by a studio that is largely staffed by men. The take of the film is that it is impossible to be a woman in the modern age. Absolutely impossible.
Yeah, we just watched that one.
We get this long speech of America Ferrera talking about how it's so difficult to be a woman. They want us to be this way, but not that way.
Listen, Ben, it would be so much easier for me to take your point of view here if I didn't have to hear you and the people that emulate you constantly, like literally playing me the tiniest violin in the world about how hard it is to be a man right now. It would be so much easier to hear.
Thin, but they don't want us to say that we're thin. They want us to earn money, but they don't want us to earn money. They want us to do this, and they don't want us to do that. They want us to answer for men's bad behavior, but they don't want us to offend men. They want us to do this, and they don't want us... Oh my God, it's so difficult to be a woman. So the same tried, truistic bullshit that they've been propagating in every new wave feminist film for the last 45 years in the United States is now essentially...
We need to change the title, right? If I could somehow, and I'm not suggesting that I compromise Ben Shapiro's password or that anybody do that. But if I did have access to the back end of Ben Shapiro's YouTube account, right? If I had that back end access to Ben Shapiro, I feel like I would log in and I'd change the title to "The Barbie Movie Destroys Ben Shapiro for 43 Minutes," because that's really what we're seeing here. Ben Shapiro is not destroying the Barbie movie in 43 minutes. He is getting destroyed by the Barbie movie in 43 minutes.
Scoped into this one speech from America Ferrera, including a few cutaway shots of Margot Robbie looking up adoringly at America Ferrera as she explains that it's super hard.
You'd love to see him attempt to survive as a woman for like just 1 hour in public, or for 43 minutes even.
It's so damn difficult to be a woman. You know why? Because of the patriarchy, because of the men. That's the actual story of the film. And then they make a couple of other dumb references, right? The Zack Snyder cut. The men, they like the Zack Snyder cut. Wow, that's terrible. Okay, fine. Then they say, you know what we need to do? We need to disabuse all of these Barbies of the patriarchy. How are we going to do this? We need to allow them to live with the cognitive dissonance required to be a woman under the patriarchy. That's a line from Barbie. Now again, they keep doing this. They keep having Barbie drop these extremely literate and well-articulated lines, but she's supposed to be a plastic doll.
That's a joke.
Authority should derive from the consent of the governed, not from the threat of force.
It doesn't matter. What is their actual strategy? So they have 48 hours to stop this vote, which shouldn't be happening in the first place because it makes no plot sense. Because the men are fascists.
Wait.
And the women...
That was a scene from Toy Story, right?
Are victims. But somehow they've been given 48 hours to stop the vote. So what are they going to do to stop this vote? How are they going to do it? Well, they're going to separate the men and the women.
Barbie!
They're going to turn all the Barbies against the Kens. It's so subtle. The symbolism is so subtle. Turn all the women against the men and you will save society. That's the message that you could be shoveling directly into the brain of your 8-year-old girl if you so choose this weekend.
You're going to make your 8-year-old girl a man-hater and she'll never get married and she'll have cats.
Maximum volume.
She'll watch Anita Sarkeesian.
So they literally say this, get the Barbies away from their Kens. How are they going to achieve this? Well, you're going to make the men complacent and then take their power.
Cats are the best.
This is how women have achieved power. Now, let me just digress briefly here in how women actually achieved power in Western civilization. The answer
My 9-year-old already hates men, though.
is they lobbied men and men gave it to them. That is the actual answer as to how women achieved power in Western civilization. The amendment to the Constitution that allowed women to vote was passed.
Maybe that was, maybe we weren't hard enough on men, right?
Solely by men because women couldn't vote. It turns out there are a lot of good-hearted men out there who like women and who want women to be able to live lives that they...
Unlike you and the rest of the Daily Wire staff who seem to want to roll back women's rights to vote.
They want. It turns out that many of us are husbands and fathers. Many of us have daughters. Many of us love the people we're married to.
But
it turns out that...
Look at that. It takes you to have, it takes you having a woman in your life to have any sort of empathy whatsoever. That's kind of a sad commentary, Ben.
That actually describes a huge number of Western men, that we are not your enemies. And yet the entire premise of the movie is that what actually happened in the feminist movement is that women seized the power away from the men. I'm sorry to break it to you, ladies. It ain't true.
Seize the means of production.
It ain't true. This notion that women
We need a Karl Marx Barbie.
As a block is not true. Married women vote very much like their husbands, actually. Single women.
That's not true either. There's a huge disparity, and like the only like block that really reliably votes for Trump is like white men, right? That's like and like, you know, more so towards the point of like, right? That's kind of how it breaks down. Our politics absolutely do break down along gendered lines.
Vote more like a block now than they did before, but it turns out that people are individuals, and some women vote one way and some men vote another way.
But wait, saying that women vote alongside their husband, that doesn't sound very individualistic.
But again, the idea here is very simplistic: men versus women, battle royale, and that's what this literally turns into, a battle royale between the women and the men. But really, it's about getting the men to fight each other. They bring all
the anti-SJWs hate Barbie because it's girly media aimed at gals. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Is they kind of want a world where the movies are targeted at men and men drag women along to them. Women watch the movie because that's what your man is watching. And if you want to spend time with your man, it's going to be watching this, you know, movie, right?
Barbies one by one. They distract them. They bring the Barbies in one by one and they unbrainwash them. How do they unbrainwash them? Well, they tell them truths like any power you have must be masked.
They couldn't ruin Disney TLM, Mario, or Elemental, so they're trying to ruin Barbie.
Giggle. I have a question. I mean, I work with a lot of women. Do they feel like the power that they have has to be masked under a giggle? Was this film written in 1943?
They're furious. Yeah, the anti-SJWs, they're furious that this movie is making money, and they're also really happy that the Sound of Freedom is making money, even though it's with empty theaters. It's literally like people are literally just donating to get the movie on the top of the box office.
Who wrote this film? Well, we know who wrote this film. A feminist writer who gets paid millions of dollars to make horse. One of them says, we have to reject men's advances without damaging their ego. Or theoretically, you could just reject men's advances and damage their ego because what do you care? So they turn the men against each other. And then we get a 20-minute long segment of the Kens fighting each other using various implements ranging from like small bows and arrows with sticky cups at the end to tennis rackets.
Oh, wait, they got what is that? They got the thing from the joust thing from TwitchCon, right? One of them has one of those joust stick. You know the things that they're it looks kind of like a paddle for a kayak, right? But it's got like padding on the end of it. You know what I'm talking about? They had it at TwitchCon and in that, I think, yeah, that event where people got hurt.
And that turns into a musical number.
Suction cups have a name then.
What does any of this have to do with the plot? Nothing. Literally nothing. It is just a 15-minute digression. Because
maybe people wanted to see Ryan Gosling sing.
Wanted to insert a crappy musical number with not particularly good dancing. And then what are the women doing during this time? The women are voting. The women are voting. So now we know the Democratic turnout strategy. The Democratic turnout strategy in 2024 is going to be to get all of the Republicans to fight with one another using tennis rackets while they go and they do the voting, apparently. So they go and they vote. After they vote, they reestablish exactly basically how it was. The matriarchy.
I gotta admit, I am seeing more and more like right-wingers fighting each other. You know, whether it's DeSantis versus Trump or it's Shapiro versus J.K. Rowling. I am seeing more and more of that.
Established.
I want to see him shirtless. I support. Yeah, he's great shirtless. Look, as much as I appreciate Kate McKinnon, I would be lying if I said to you that I don't also appreciate Ryan Gosling.
And Ken, who is now really sad because he has lost his power, and all he wanted in the first place was just to be treated decently by Barbie. Is he treated decently at the end by Barbie? Of course he isn't. That would be silly. At the very end,
we're supporting misandry here.
He is told that he needs to learn to live without Barbie.
I just don't know who I am without you.
You're Ken.
He gets his ass kicked in family court.
But it's Barbie and Ken. There is no just Ken.
He, who was literally created as a doll to be with Barbie, he needs to learn to be apart from Barbie, and she needs to learn to be apart from him, because atomistic isolation and loneliness is the best way to find fulfillment, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be best for Ken if he never sees Barbie again. It'll be better for Barbie if she never sees Ken again.
It'd be better if they were to be able to find their own identity without it having to be defined as in a heteronormative framework. Maybe? I don't know. That's a weird thought, huh? Ben is not
secular
like the
humanism at its finest. We've reached the apotheosis. Men and women don't belong together. They belong very, very much apart. This is all topped off by Issa Rae calling somebody a motherfucker. Again,
Yeah,
Perfect for your 7-year-old girl.
Is he really reading like lesbian separatism into this movie? Is that what Ben is getting out of this?
Who loves Barbie dolls. Just perfect for her. And so we learn that men and women are supposed to be separate. They're not supposed to be together. And that maybe the matriarchy will allow the men not to be on the Supreme Court of
censored
Barbie Land, but maybe they can get some lower circuit court judgeships. This is what we learn. And we learn one day the Kens might have as much power and influence in Barbie world as women have in the real world. Because, of course, women are, again, just absolutely subjugated in the real world. You think that's the end of the movie? Wrong. This thing has more endings than Lord of the Rings. So, ending number 1 is we find out that Ken is going to live apart from Barbie and he's going to find himself in being Ken.
There it is.
Oh, the
Find
utter
yourself.
joy of self-exploration.
Yes.
Next, we get an ending in which the CEO of Mattel, who's been completely sidelined. You remember the CEO of Mattel? Remember he was supposed to be chasing them into Barbie Land for no apparent reason? So he's now in Barbie Land. We don't know why he's there or what he's there to do, except that we need Will Ferrell in the movie.
Find Barbie.
To provide no laughs. He doesn't provide any laughs. So he
sometimes doesn't. He's like I said, he's hit or miss.
Shows up. His motivation throughout this movie has been completely inconsistent. He started off wanting to put Barbie back in Barbie Land so that they could make money. And then he is told at one point that when Kens have taken over Kendom, they will make just as much money. He's like, no, that cannot be. I'm an ideologue on behalf of women. And then he arrives and he is told that America Ferrera wants to make ordinary Barbie, which, by the way, would sell 0. Anyway, that will be profitable. And so now he wants to make ordinary Barbie because he's back to being uber capitalist, evil capitalist. He's making money off of Barbie because, again, Mattel are the bad guys, but they're also the good guys. But they're kind of the bad guys, but they're mostly the good, but they're a little bad. And so that's ending number 2 at this point. So we have the Barbie Ken ending. We have the CEO of Mattel ending, where he says, we'll make ordinary Barbie, and then girls all over the world will know that ordinariness is fine and okay. Because it's not that girls play with Barbie because they think that she's beautiful and it's aspirational. No, it's bad. Okay, so then we have ending number 3.
Maybe they're saying you can change those aspirations, right? That's the whole, he's missing it. It's right there, right? It's right there. Barbie, can be a symbol of liberation. Barbie can be a symbol of oppression. And it all depends on, whether she's used as this hierarchical ideal, whether she is, like I said, I'm going to say it again, a Eurocentric, male-gazy vision of beauty, or whether Barbie is beautiful as herself, however that self is expressed, right?
You think you're done? Wrong. We're now 2 hours deep into this piece of shit. And we have now dug
He's got some bad media literacy. I would agree with that.
halfway to China, and we are going to keep digging. So we have ending number 3. Rhea Perlman shows up to lecture us all about the patriarchy again. You haven't heard it enough. We got to beat this sucker into the ground. We are going to take an axe, the blunt end.
You may have heard it enough, but you still haven't internalized that message. So yes, I will beat you with this blunt object of ideology.
The axe. We're just going to beat this thing to death. We're just going to beat it to death. So Rhea Perlman shows up because Barbie, it turns out, she spent too much time in the real world. That was the patriarchy and was terrible. So terrible that she wanted to stop it from happening in Barbie Land. But now she wants to go back there because she actually learned some feelings over in the real world. So she decides that after all, this whole story was just Pinocchio, that she just wants to be a real boy. And in what can only be termed a sort of bait and switch, at the very end of the film, just to please the core audience, which is moms and daughters, they insert a bunch of footage, I kid you not, like home video footage of moms and daughters playing. That's what it is, like people living their lives in female ways. Because Rhea Perlman is going to show Barbie what it's like to be a human, and then Barbie is going to say that she really wants to be a human just like you, just like you. And so they hit you with the nostalgia play. At the very end, the whole movie, which should have been nostalgia and about moms and daughters, instead, the entire movie is not that. The entire movie is instead about how men are evil and terrible. And also Mattel is evil and terrible. And then at the very end, they shove in this little nostalgia play in the hope that they can buy back the audience at the very end of the film. And Barbie decides that she is going to be a real woman now. Now, when she goes, that's ending number 3. There's still one more. So when that happens, when she goes to
this multiple ending thing, it's like a certain style of humor, and I feel like how old? Can somebody tell me how old Ben Shapiro is? Because I feel like this isn't that new of a comedic style that he should be completely unfamiliar with it, right?
He goes into this white area that's supposed to be heaven because the person who she's talking, Rhea Perlman, is actually the person who actually created the doll. And we're supposed to be, this was supposed to be a secret, is that Mattel was run by men, but the big secret all along is that a woman created the doll. News. It's not a secret. She was CEO of the company for 30 years. CEO of Mattel for 30 years, from like 1945 to 1975, until the IRS caught her for tax evasion or something. The big reveal that the patriarchy said that it created Barbie, it didn't. No one thought the patriarchy created Barbie. Again, don't bother with the facts. Don't bother with sense.
Ben is a failed screenwriter and apparently failed into getting into acting as well. Matt Walsh is a failed comedian. The other Daily Wire guy, and Brent Cooper. Oh yeah, you're right. Yo, has anybody seen? I think I showed Michael Knowles' one foray into college film. Which wow.
Don't bother with chronology. Don't bother. None of it matters. So, Barbie is now sent back to the real world, and she is now going to experience the apotheosis of what it means to be a human woman. So we've learned early on in the movie, when she goes to the real world, she's catcalled by a bunch of the construction guys, and she says, "I don't have a vagina." Right? She, again, amazing line for your 7-year-old girl. She'll love it. So apparently,
yo, you should be telling your 7-year-old girl that vaginas don't exist, that everyone's, got a blob down there. I don't know, like what?
When she's turned into,
how is that inappropriate for like
to a real woman? She has now grown a vagina. So the first thing that she does is she goes to the gynecologist, because ladies, the apotheosis of your being is not motherhood. We got rid of that at the very beginning. And it's not being a wife or a partner, because women are supposed to be apart from men. It is your vagina. It is that you go to the gynecologist. Ladies, this is what makes you the most human you can be, is that you go to the gynecologist. Now, I could point out,
it's because it's something Barbie never had
here, that's really transphobic. That according to the same people who made this movie, not all women have vaginas, and not all people with penises are men. I could point that out right here, because it obviously conflicts with the very ending of the film. But instead, I'm going to
look. I could tell you that, like, people, that everybody on like the cultural left, even just barely on the left side of the fence, is like extremely knowledgeable and perfect when it comes to, being trans inclusive, but I'd be lying to you, right?
Go with this one. At the end of all of this, they've boiled down. They have a whole conversation about identity.
This is a big part of what right-wingers' cultural critique is. Holding something up to a perceived zero tolerance, holding something up to like a perfection that doesn't exist, right? Barbie got a bonus hole. I don't know.
And death and meaning, right? This whole conversation. What does it boil down to at the very end? What it boils down to at the very end, apparently, is...
But I mean, like, a more simple explanation would be that Barbie canonically, does not have, like, those parts, mainly because of how sex-phobic, mainly because of, people like Ben, don't want their kids to know that sex exists in any way. And we've gone over this a lot of times, like, lack of sex education makes kids more susceptible to, right? They Republicans always want to imply that knowledge of the existence of sex is gonna make kids have sex too early, or now with the groomers narrative it's gonna make them more susceptible to. But actually the opposite is true. Like, not treating that stuff like it is this like no land that you got to pretend doesn't exist until you're like a certain age, actually it is a healthier way to raise kids.
Being biologically female is the only thing that matters, and that's it, kind of. That's it. Like, it all just boils down to a lady at the gynecologist.
Man, I go to a gynecologist, and I know that by your definition you wouldn't consider me biologically female, right? You've made that part really clear.
That's female power. Female power is Barbie goes to gynecologist. which I don't know about you ladies, but that seems like that's not like the most feminist message.
So, I mean, like, you know, like I haven't seen the movie. I can't comment. I can't tell you if it's like transphobic or, you know, if the message is a little bit transphobic or not. I wouldn't be surprised if it was, because we live in a transphobic world. But I will tell you, regardless, that as far as transphobia goes, we have much bigger fish to fry. One large fish being the Daily Wire itself.
And lady parts are the entirety of the lady. So excellent.
I'm a little bit more worried about what Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh said than I am about, you know, what's in the Barbie movie.
An excellent job. And with that, we end the film, and then we have the glossy, you know, credits with a Nicki Minaj song, a Nicki Minaj version of "I'm a Barbie Girl in a Barbie World." This movie started off as Barbie, and it was Weird Barbie. It was the toy that was handed off to Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig. And they played with it too hard. They decided that they were going to turn it inside out. They're going to rip off the hair. They were going to shave it. They were going to make it ugly. They were going to put all sorts of
Weird Barbies are the best Barbies.
Makeup on it. And then they were going to throw it out in the public. Now, those of us who are on the right, we look at the politics of this movie, we're like, man, so it sounds like a double sandwich. It doesn't sound like a Big Mac. It sounds like a double Big Mac. Right? It sounds like the plot is crap, and the characters are crap, and the humor is crap. And then on top of that, the politics are crap. But you're missing the point. There's a reason this film has 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. And the reason is, if you are on the left, you can make one of the world's most boring, crappy comedies. You can waste an extraordinary amount of money and talent.
You could say that about any movie.
Waste some of the great IP ever created. But as long as you slather it in a bunch of warmed over Glorious Steinem nonsense, the critics will just salivate over you. They'll pretend that this is an actual good movie. So here's my prediction in terms of market. The marketing campaign for this movie has been astonishingly good. Right? If you walked into this movie and you knew nothing of what I just said, what would you think this movie is? You would think that this movie was probably something like the Disney movie.
I don't know, but it kind of made you cope pretty hard. So I'm starting off, you know, with a positive disposition towards this movie.
Enchanted, but with Barbie.
Like, I haven't seen Ben Shapiro cope this hard in a long time.
It's going to be Barbie in Barbie Land, and then it's going to be Barbie in the real world, and it's going to be charming, and it's going to be funny, and it's going to be warm-hearted, and it's not going to be vicious and cynical, and it's not going to be what morons talk about at Hollywood cocktail parties. It's just going to be fun. It's going to be a place where a mom might be able to take her 7-year-old or 8-year-old girl and enjoy themselves together and then walk out with their arms around each other. You might think that's what it was going to be. And
Ben, I hate to break it to you, but that is unironically going on, right? That is most people's experience seeing this movie.
Undoubtedly. Millions of
if they're taking their kid to
moms
it,
and their daughters. Well, think.
So some people are just seeing this movie. They don't have kids are seeing this movie too.
Yeah. That's what you're seeing at the theaters. That's why you're seeing everybody wearing pink to the theaters. It's become like a Star Wars kind of thing, right? It's an actual cosplay of it. The number of moms who are going to take their daughters back to the theater week 2, good luck with that.
Is that really in the realm of expectations? Like, I mean, like, I know there's movies. If you really like a movie, maybe you'll see it twice, but that's pretty rare.
Really, good luck with that. Hollywood decided to empty out its own IP. Here, they decided they were going to take a golden piece of IP and they were just going to smash.
It's ruined. You know, nobody can ever play with Barbies anymore.
And turn it into Weird Barbie. And I got to tell you, and this is going to have some ramifications for Barbie.
I feel like they can start selling Weird Barbies. Yo, that's going to be, like I told you earlier, I talked to you about recuperation, right? How things that are revolutionary get turned into counter-revolutionary. You know, in terms of their symbolic significance, right? The example being, you know, the hippies sewing flags to their, you know, jean pocket, you know, to show disrespect for America during the Vietnam War, and that becoming a jean company, you know, putting American flags on the butts of their jeans, right? The, you know, the irony, the critique, you know, it all gets kind of taken away, right? But I mean, I feel like
brand. I don't know why Barbie the brand would hand this property over to people who clearly hate the property. In the real world, the patriarchy rules.
No, I feel like the real Barbie fans are the weird Barbie lovers.
Men are really bad. Women need to separate off from men and hate men in order to be unblinded to the patriarchy, and then they can overthrow the patriarchy and create paradise. That is the thesis of the film. Last comment. Whenever I do film reviews like this, you know, lengthy film reviews of movies like this, the left is always like, why are you taking this so seriously? How dare you take this so seriously?
I mean, like, that's a legitimate question. And I don't think you've tried to answer that. I don't think you've succeeded.
Seriously. Well, because this is a movie where hundreds of millions of dollars will be expended to get people to watch it. It has a heavily political message. It is explicitly designed to divide men from women.
But yeah, like if anything, like, you know, the selling of weird Barbies would be, you know, an example of that recuperation, right? Like I think having a weird Barbie is almost like a sign of rebellion.
It has these negative messages directed at kids. It is supposed to be a kids movie. It's rated PG-13. It is not marketed to PG.
I mean, not the weird Barbies, like the Barbies. Yeah, that's the irony too, right? Is that, like, you know, he's complaining about weird Barbie, and he went in and he made some weird Barbies by, you know, in a way that, like, I can't really get behind, in terms of burning the dolls as a symbol of his frustration and cope.
PG-13. It is marketed to PG. It is marketed to moms who are going to skip the PG-13 rating and bring their daughters there anyway. It's a culturally relevant moment, a very culturally relevant moment. And so the entire left's attempts to play the face tattoo syndrome, watch as we take a piece of children's IP and wear its skin around like a mask, like Hannibal Lecter, and we notice it, and then they're like, you noticed it? You're obviously very upset. I find it upsetting when material that is based on children's IP and marketed to little girls actually ends up being angry feminist claptrap that alienates men from women, undermines basic human values, and promotes falsehood.
As opposed to this angry misogynist claptrap.
But all at the same time. And I think a lot of people are going to have a right to be mad. So we'll see what the income trajectory of this film is. By the way, it's just going to die.
Yo, like, he's still coping. Look, Ben, I'll be real with you, okay? This movie making an absurd amount of money, I don't take that as being symbolic of some triumph of feminism, right? It's a movie at the end of the day. It is what you make it. You know, Barbie can be the Barbie IP. It's so malleable, right? You could make it, like I said, it could be, you know, liberatory, or it could be oppressive, right? Depending on, you know, like there's as many Barbies, as many significances for Barbie as a symbol as there are people. Like, it's just, I don't know.
China, the overseas market for this film. Good luck with the Chinese Communist government putting their kids in front of this sort of stuff. It is not going to happen.
Now, wait, somebody did say that there was somebody, like, I don't think it was Ben, but there was some right winger that found a map in the movie, and they looked at the map and they claimed that the way that this world map looked was similar to the world map favored by the Chinese Communist Party. Something about little dashed lines around the South China Sea, right? So they already have, like, there has been a conservative accusation that this movie is playing to the Chinese Communist Party by implying that the South China Sea and Taiwan, you know, are in, you know, China's sphere of influence or whatever. So, you know, that
First, Nebula is the whole.
it's not even meaningful feminism. I mean, like, I wouldn't expect it to be necessarily. I feel like you could read that into it. You could see that in there, but it's not.
Final rating.
Definitely not
out of 10 Barbies.
Into it.
How many Barbies? 10 out of 10 being good.
He's gonna
The
give it,
answer
like,
is
one.
negative
Barbies.
of all the Barbies.
Yeah, negative, because you burned the Barbies. That's right. I forgot.
Negative all of them. I honestly just
Negative infinity. Okay.
as a piece of film, this sucker goes in like my bottom 10 ever.
It's like feminism 101.
Ever. It is that bad. Not just because of the politics, because the plot makes no sense, because the writing makes no sense, because the acting half the time makes no sense. The entire film is a dog's vomit. It is a dog's breakfast of film.
A dog's breakfast, or okay, anyway.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with negative infinity Barbies. It is that bad. If 10 out of 10 Barbies is like the stereotypical Barbie, this is Barbie head atop the robot body made by the weird kid from Toy Story 1. That's what this is.